Hi guys, let's see if we have camera on. Hello everybody, I'm gonna try to check the sound. Yes, we have the sound. So people, I see people coming. It was kind of busy for last week, since Monday, since I arrived to Moscow. I was on vacation for 2 weeks, so didn't have much time to talk. And this is probably one they shouldn't turn off. I think this is just a peaceful broadcast for people and answering questions. So I hope this broadcast stays and won't get knocked out, as it was like for 5 recent times. Pretty soon, I hope we're gonna have the chat with Rosette and maybe Martin and maybe who else gonna follow us? Maybe Arjun Hartman, maybe Wise Up. I don't know who's Rosette is contact with, because we have to talk with people and we have to upload more videos and answer your questions, because information got pretty tight this year. We know about recent information with following events with climate and with volcanoes in Hawaii, and have a bunch of information on mud floods and stuff like this. So I hope you people liked the broadcast that we made last time and the previous one, because I see a bunch of people watching and following Rosette. So we might not quite agree on every topic, and somebody's, providing his information in his way. So I'm talking about my information. So it's not like totally 100% confirmed. You know that nothing is confirmed for 100%. So you have to realize it's just you can use this information as my personal opinion. You can use this information as a decent information. I don't know how much do you trust this information, but we try to compare the facts and see if everything's all right with your comprehension, first of all. So if you're not on this broadcast, you can write me your questions in this particular, under this particular video. So I'll be right back with the answering. And we have a poll on our group, Debunking Conspiracy in Facebook, on what topics I should cover next, because I didn't have much time, as I said before, and I'm in lack of time to make the videos, of course. So we let just the subscribers of the group, the members of the group, follow up with this poll and answer the questions. So I had like 4 topics, like Crown and Ray Bradbury part 4, which is probably information is gathered, but I don't have just enough time to do that. I also have information about star forts, which are buried in the mud flood. So it's like a star forts versus mud flood. How could this actually happen? Because we have many examples of star forts in the mountains that are also buried. So also we have gathered a bunch of information on globalists, and I got a bunch of questions from the subscribers of my channel, and I'd like to answer them in that video. Also, I've been to an ancient town of Gorgipia's museum, in a place that I stayed for 2 weeks. It was close to it. It's like on the shore of the Black Sea, and it's supposed to be old Greek colony. So I have filmed some artifacts that were met there, and was lucky to film the stones of the Hercules, so-called Hercules grave. They well, this is the topic. So if you like me to make this video, write me in the comments, because I'm not just going to talk about this right now. Also, we have many information on flat Earth. We got a video of Jaren from Jaren's channel. We are not met personally, but I tried to contact him so we can talk about history, but because I saw some BS video on his channel about history, so I'd like to talk about it. If you know him personally, just propose him a deal to have a little chat about this, maybe for like 30 minutes or something like this, because what he was talking with some person on his channel is so totally ridiculous. So in my paradigm, in my point of view, so if he is okay with that, let him be. Because I'm not going to propose it forever, because he's probably a busy person, right? Okay, also I have a bunch of information on flat Earth, which I really promote Jaron for his job he's doing, because he's doing very informative videos, and he was lucky to publish and not get banned for advertisement of T-Mobile. So he published their presentation video about for 5G 5G equipment that they use in their technologies, in the city broadcast, in the city, or satellite, or whatever, cell phone coverage. And this is also brings more facts about how GPS works and all this stuff, because this is probably what it is, because we were talking about it, and here we go, they made this video, and you can just watch it and understand how it works. Because people just, when they talk about something, then they try to propose their theories, they don't have information from the first hands, and the first hands in this case is the satellite company, which is making a video, and people can watch it and understand that this is totally true about the satellites. Okay, let's see if we have any questions. Oh, we have a bunch of questions. Greetings for Germany. Oh, no. Balloon satellites are my favorite subjects. Well, I haven't seen any balloon on satellite, but probably there is a balloon satellite, and maybe they also use something like zeppelins, who knows, to have their purposes in the satellite industry, because they have it. And I've seen satellite dishes that actually work. I don't know how it works, but they work. So, and I've seen the cell phones for satellites, so-called satellite cell phones. Probably they are just more powerful than ordinary smartphones, but they also work. So we have to think how they work, and maybe this is just a good case to talk about it, because I have people who in Russia who talks about this, and they have like 4-hour charts and chats on this topic. So I probably just review the information and give what Russians brainstorm on this topic, because it's very good. Do all satellites point south? Well, as I've said before, I have to watch all those videos to be more competent on this topic, because this is information. Also, you think the dome is really what it is. It's not what it is. It's just a bubble of reflection. So it can hold some amount, some volume inside of it, but it's so thin, but it's so thick. Okay, so you cannot just pass it, because it's a reflection. Wherever you try to pass it, you go right in the opposite direction, in the opposite place where you're supposed to go on the 3D, 4D reflection. So it's a fourth dimension is a time. So the position of the object also is tied to the time that is positioned in. So wherever you go to the place in this dome, you're supposed to like reappear in a different opposite place where you're supposed to go when you have like a ball model, right? So this is the catch of this thing. So though people won't just argue about it, but it's a reflection. So it does work. Global navigation works perfectly. Okay, so if it works perfectly on a flat surface, the only thing that can explain it and literally be tested as a thing is this reflection. And if we have not pass the test, then we can talk about some other topics. But I know the information is correct, and probably 80% correct, because I cannot just explain what I'm trying to say in English. Maybe in Russian I'll eventually come up with the idea how to explain it more in English, because I don't have all those words in my dictionary. People write me that I did exceed in my pronunciation and stuff like this, but I'm not really in such shape that I wasn't when I was 15, because when you're so young, you have your brains more active, and you perform more knowledge in language usage, in language implementing. I don't have such practice right now, so actually I don't speak as well as I did when I was 15. Okay. Even Berlin was empty in early. Yes, this is a topic, but I'm not actually in this topic. I didn't have much time to find more pictures about it. We have to find the pictures, guys. If you have your pictures from your archives, from your towns, from your where you don't see people, you might as well, like, send it to me, and we'll think about it, because what I have is just the Moscow and St. Petersburg pictures. This is it. And a little bit of London, which I have already showed to you. Well, I can look at them one more time, but it won't bring us to nothing. So we have to find more pictures about it. And actually, this information that people got brought from the other cells, from the outside of the dome, is really, really good, because it's actually connected to the information from the Bible when they say that the person was led to the east. And we have to talk about east, because east is the key for all this dome information, because we have Easter, we have east as the direction on the compass, which is east, like China and stuff like this. So if you go to the east, you go to the China. Actually, you go to the Japan. And the Eastern civilization called Orientals, okay? And this is really good information to talk about. And we have many goddesses in Norway, in Germany, in England, in Russia. We have Istra, the Istra. You have Easter in your country. So this is some type of Easter Island also. Very good information. And all this history is based on Easter, because Easter is the only place that doesn't move in the timeline. Wherever you go, in which country, Russia, Germany, we have Easter on the same day. So it's like connected to the Jewish Easter, or it's called the other way. So it's just very, very, very tight. So Easter is the place to find out what is going on here in this. Easter is the key word, is the description keyword to the history. And actually, I've got this information when I listened to that guy that I've showed you, and some of you said that we want more information. So I watched that guy, that Russian guy. He seems to be crazy sometimes, but he brings the information, and I've checked the information he was saying, and really, Easter is everywhere. So Easter is the key, and probably we'll expand on this information. Berlin people came from the west and moved east. Well, I don't know. I think the cell is to the east from the cell that they move the people. So probably that cell has a better accommodation for people, and they like get trained there, and then they just get to the point where we have the Midgard, because right now this system works. They bring us here after the resets, so they erase the previous civilizations, and we end up finding out that something's wrong in the history, and something's wrong in archaeology, something's wrong in geography, something's wrong in mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology. And we like, wow, what the hell are we doing here? Did we actually believe all this BS for like 100 years, or maybe even more? Who knows? So just think about it, because this is really important. Okay. Easter and mating, what's the connection? Well, we'll have to find out when I make this video, because as long as I will bring this information, you write me comments and we'll just expand this time, because when I have no comments, I don't have anything to talk about, because when you ask me the questions, I answer. And probably most of you can confirm that at least one of your comments got an answer from me, and you can see it in the chat. You mean the 3D print guy? Yes, the 3D print guy. And he's probably a Mason, because I don't have any other explanation how this guy actually can, you know, talk to so many politic people, which are really high ranked people, and he is actually asking them questions. And you know, it's not any chance for me to pass to those places. He is like in State Duma, which is like Congress. He's inside everywhere, and he's like talking on all the scientists, which are not really, you know, touchable for people for like me and anybody else. And you know, many people, a fly in the wall at Winning Live, many people like you ask me about Brian Austin. I say for sure I didn't watch most of his videos from like maybe April, because at that particular time I stopped like on number 10 or something like this, and I like had totally no time to watch him. So maybe right now he has like some more videos, because I skipped a couple, because you know, he covered the topics that I already know, and sometimes it was really not interesting, so I put like 1.5 speed and listen to him. So you can actually watch me at this speed, because sometimes I'm really slow in Russian, thinking about what I say, because I don't write anything and I just say what I say, and I don't get ready, because I have like 1 or 2 hours for this video thing in a day, maybe sometimes 3 hours when it's a holiday or a vacation. So I didn't watch him, and I have to watch him again to see what he's thinking about. Well, the first couple of videos got me attracted, because it was like, wow, the information flows, and then he like started doing like a little dosage or whatever, little amount of information in each video. And like, when the secret, when you're gonna uncover something, because you like, you know, he's like talking little steps. So probably this is good for the people who are not aware, and not like for me or anybody who's really aware and really awake for this time. So I think I have to watch him again, maybe sometime else, maybe in August when I have more time, okay? And I have another week off. Okay, so Genghis Khan real? Of course he is real, because we can read about it, but was he a person that belongs to our civilization? We don't know. Or was he a person from other cell, other history line? Who knows? Maybe this is just the era for people to understand, was he for real, or was he for real just fabricated like everything else? Like, there's a bunch of proof that he is documented in a bunch of sources, but is there a proof that of his physical presence? Is there a proof of his actual traveling from Mongolia to Russia, maybe even far, and his son? So he's like created the empire, and maybe he is not that person that we used to know. Maybe he is more a Tartarian Khan, not Mongolian Khan. Who knows? And the Khan was like an army leader, but we have many questions, like what his army was eating while traveling all this amount of time, amount of space. It's just unimaginable, because he had like 500,000 horses. So maybe, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just not impossible for people to travel so far on horses with such amount of horses, because you have to like, you know, spread very wide, because horses have to eat something while you travel, and you just can't carry all this, you know, amount of food with you, because you have soldiers that's supposed to eat. And they say this area was not populated. They say Siberia was not populated at all. They say it was completely unpopulated at that time. There's no state there. If there were no state, what did they eat? Who was providing them with food? Who was providing them with horses? Because horses, they die when you travel for so long, and they traveled like way long, like 8,000 miles. This is just not, very good to explain. So just like Napoleon army, which is like 500,000 people, 500,000 personnel, horses, what else? Guns, ammunition, cannons, cannonballs. I don't know who carried all this stuff, who fed all this army. If they went strictly on the same road, they stretched to 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers, 20 kilometers. 20 kilometers of personnel is just walking for a couple of months fighting the Russians. This is just crazy. I cannot think about it, how that was actually made. Maybe just a small amount of people, fabricating, doing this false flag attacks everywhere, documenting things, and telling us that this was a huge army. Who knows? Because this is a bunch of questions, just like the question about the brick masonry, which was performed in 18th and 17th century. How could they make all these astonishing buildings? How could they make so many volume of star forts? All those walls, they're just thicker than stadium sometimes. So think about it. It's just a bunch of information. My ancestors are German, French, Scot, and Irish, but they were poor. How did they afford to get to the U.S.? I don't know. This is just good information for you think about, because were they actually brought to U.S.? Were they sent to U.S. as slaves? As we have many pictures of that, when Irish were working for very miserable money, and they were kept in small communities under very tight control, and people were working as slaves in the United States. And we have many proof of that, just like we have many proof of something is wrong with the Indian thing, because many Indians were like white, and they had like kings. Who knows what is really happened there, because probably some countries were inside the Union, and then when the Union broke up, they didn't have enough support. Maybe we have like two sides, like Tartaria and Holy Roman Empire, which were fighting each other for all those broke away countries in the 18th century, and they supposed to gain the control. Or maybe this is just another way of speculation in history, and if I'm right on the reset topic, then the last reset was in 19th century. So everything that was before the 19th century probably false, or made up, or maybe exaggerated, or maybe edited. So if it's edited, could be the thing, because American colonies didn't expand to the west until something happened, and that something was a civil war. And we also had something that happened in the same period of time. We had the Crimean War, and we had abolishment of so-called enforced peasants, which are literally and US also had the Slave Abolishment Act. So probably this is all connected. This is where we have all these connections to. Just like Crocroy and Ray Bradbury movie, we have connections in words, we have connections in languages, we have connections in all those inspired encryptions and conspiracies. So we have to uncover that. Also, gold rush and the gold is a very big topic, because We have many examples in recent years about finding out that the gold in the banks is actually falsified, and it contains only a tiny level of gold on the edges, and inside is totally fake, like made with some other metals. And so people like creating reports on that and posting them to the banking communities and stuff like this. So we had some cases in Russia when the gold gets rust. So gold just cannot get rust in definition. So we have a bunch of information of losing Russia's gold twice in 20th century. First one when the Federal Reserve System was created, and the second one when the Bolsheviks were like trailing the gold train with one of ex-Russian Empire generals, admirals, in fact, and his name was Kolchak, and he was established in the capital in the city that I was born in, Omsk. And Omsk also is famous for its undergrounds, for its hidden undergrounds, for prohibited entrance to them. And Omsk is also famous with many buried windows, buried doors. And actually, the picture in one of these communities in Facebook, 19th century mud flood, contains this picture of my city, of one of the buildings with the buried first floors, maybe second floors, who knows. And it's actually like very popular because it proves a lot, because we see the doors are totally buried, and how this could be in Omsk, nobody knows. So what year was the mud flood? As what I think, it was in the period between 1816 to 1850s, like, okay? So somebody says it's like 1861, but well, let's have this period, 1860 to 1860, but I'm not really sure about 60s. I think it's like closer to 40s. So that's why when people ask me the exact date, I always say 1840s, because it's somewhere in the middle of 16 and 60, okay? And probably there were a series of floods, because you cannot just perform the simultaneous flood once to destroy all the civilization. You have to do it like for a couple of times. Maybe you can perform with climate changes, which are like weaponry, and how they do it, and they can change the atmosphere temperature, they can change the humidity, they can change the temperature. Right now it's all possible for the modern civilization, so it could be possible for the previous one, even though we know it's more technological and it had like atmosphere electricity and stuff like this. So we also have it, but we don't use it, and they were like using it bunch of times. So 1842, it's Hans Beimler guess. Well, I would agree with you, but I'm not really sure which exact year, because all this timeline is totally mixed up. When we see some books on some, I'd say it's dairy gazettes, or daily gazettes in Siberia. We have that period when they stopped publishing the newspaper and started writing it by hand. It was like for 5 years, and I don't really remember the actual years, but I can find that video. It was like published in 2014, maybe 4 years ago. It was the first video that I watched that actually provided the actual proof of that period, and it was really nice to view the exact proof. So they started to write the newspapers by hand for a couple of years. This is really, sick, because this is I cannot say anything. I cannot comment that. So probably most of the people, most of the resources were totally lost. Even the power lines were lost. So they didn't have anything. like probably all the kids were taken away, and probably all the kids started new life being zombied in small communities of so-called teachers, priests and whatever. And they put all this information in their heads, and those kids became the first one who reestablished the civilization in small communities, and then they brought to big cities to populate the big cities. This is how it was performed, because you cannot just bring the kids to the town and they rebuild the town, because there's nothing in this town is totally abandoned. There's nothing working there for like 20 years. So they have to grow the population in the villages, in the small towns, to bring them back to the capitals. And this is the way they control us, because they create capitals for this purpose, because they accumulate people in small areas, large numbers, and then they totally erase them. It's easy to capture all those small points because you don't have any resistance. Okay. Big sea level rise flood around 16th. Well, if you want to cover the flood, what do you first thing you have to do? You have to falsify the information about different floods. So you say like, oh, it's ordinary thing. This is the way people don't, actually get in panic and escape the place when they see rains, when they see little floods, when the cities are covered. And this is what may be actually be performing right now. They get us used to all these climate things, tornadoes, floodings, all this stuff, and you get used to it. And when the actual flood is coming out, whoops, you're done, because you're not running anywhere. You're waiting for help. You're useless. You cannot do anything. You cannot build the boat. You cannot grow the crops. You cannot do anything. You cannot be like Noah and build an ark in like one day. You're totally done, because you can go to the roof and sit and wait for help. This is what you're gonna do. And this is why they bring us to those small groups, so nobody can escape. Because if you start to ride on transport at the same time, you're gonna get a traffic jam. If you start walking in the mud, in the rains, in the floods, you totally get drowned. So you just sit and wait in the houses on the high-story buildings, and they're not actually designed for that. And probably some of those glass skyscraper buildings were going to be breaking in a couple of days, couple of months. So they're going to be broken, and they're going to fall, and probably they're going to blow them sometimes. Who knows? They already blew some buildings, and you know about this. A bunch of dams broke in 1860 or 1820, or so by Lake Michigan. Chicago and many parts of Indiana were flooded. Ohio as well. This is what maybe so-called repetition, because I know the information, exact information from the parasites. They spread that information, and they said exactly what I'm gonna say. We gotta go. We know that, but when we go, we're gonna smash this door so loud that you won't like it. This is what they say right now, because many people start to exposing those guys, and they, get in jail, get in murdered, get in prison, whatever you call it. And this is why I'm not talking in Russian, because all those people get tracked in Russia space. This is not free space, just like US, but in US, this topic is not brought up like not very popular like it is in Russia. We have like a bunch of people got in prison for that. And I'm not talking about muscles right now. I'm talking about the whole concept, the whole paradigm that I'm bringing to you. All this information, which is not like you can see through the trees, you cannot see the forest. What I'm saying is that information is the information for I have it in different topics, and you understand that I have a little bit different than the others say. And what is different is actually what you don't know. And this information is actually what is really important for you. Okay? Not flat earthers, but the thing that was before this flat earth thing, the thing was before any new knowledge that we know about reptilians, greys, or whatever you call them. It's just not it. It was before that, and it was since 1980s when the first guys start talking about it. They started talking about the information of connection between different cultures. You know, different cultures are connected in somehow, in some way, and that is the key to all the information that we know. Because if we are somehow connected, then of course we have the same roots. If we have the same roots, then we are not different. If we are not different, then we cannot be, divided like this. So this is information that some books, some authors say Atlantis. I'm calling it Atlantis Trade Union, but this is just the trade part of this whole paradigm, because it's not just Great Tartaria thing. It's not. It's the outer space of our cell information, because all these cells around us, they connect to levels. And if we're talking about levels cannot be just one level. We have many of levels: below and above, and below. Haven't you heard about it? As above, so below. So we're in the center of those levels. We like in a pie. So this is just a huge topic. So I've talked about it before, and you can rewatch my videos, which probably called somehow like this. Okay. What do you think of Westwood World Series? Never watched it. If you can send me a link, just do it. So how long do you imagine Atlantis to be? Atlantis is not was. We're just out of this Atlantis trade union right now, because it really does exist even now. Okay, but it's not controlled by us. And they took away the equipment from our cell. They stopped mining here, but they didn't stop mining in other places, because Atlantis is terraforming mining alliance of trades between different cells of this universe. And it's not just one place, it's just a whole bunch of areas. Some of those areas are right now under control of parasites, and we cannot control them, we cannot control them, we cannot communicate. That's why we cut off from the upper cells in the upper levels, and we are cut off from the other cells which are not under control. And we are so important for parasites because we are in the center, in the middle of all these universes, and it spins around. We have the reflection above us, others have the reflection in some type of angle of view. So that's why we call the center the Midgard, because we were controlling the axis of spinning in the reflection of this universe. What year did giants roam the earth? Giants were like last century, in 19th century, in 18th century. They were like before that. So right now we have just the genotypes that got implemented in the humans. So giants won't be disappearing forever, because we can replicate them when we can take back the control. Because giants were actually people that were brute and not brute, how do you say that, breeded, made to be giants. Giants are the not just the body, it's the control of the body. So you have to grow your mental body to be a giant, because if you don't have the mental body of a giant and you are a giant, you're just an ordinary man. You cannot do anything. You don't have those powers that giants used to have, because giants, used to have like 1 or 2 giants per city, because they could have done anything to protect us from anything. Okay, and when the giants lost control of the trees, which were actually the first one to control this area, the civilization of huge trees were the first one to control the area. They were the first one who were brought here, and the giants were made here to first to protect the trees. And then when they betrayed the trees, when they start cutting the trees, when they you know fake this information about future life of the trees and send their souls to nowhere, they disgraced all this world, and the trees were fallen, the trees were mined in the future times. And the giants started to decrease their height. That's why we have huge giants when in the trees era, and when we have lower giants in the following eras, and we have decreased the giants because giants started to lose their energy, their mental energy. And if they don't have such mental bodies as a giant cannot be empowered by the power, and he started to degrade and decrease. Okay, that's why, like in 19th century, we still could find the skeletons of the giants, which are now like 10 to 12 feet tall. And maybe 500 years ago, they had like giants with 20 feet tall. So they were decreasing, they were exterminated by the lower giants. And that's why this war attacked, and this information about fallen angels, fallen titans, whatever, those titans were falling because they were decreasing. So they were decreasing, they became lower, 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 and that's it. It's what we have right now. Right now, they are spread in the blood of the elites, they are spread in the blood of different nations. Some nations have more genotypes of giants, some nations have less. So you understand what I'm talking about. They were bred, right? Okay. Husband tells me stuff gets buried because everything gets buried eventually. Okay, let him say that. People believe in spade debris land and cover things as earth grows. That's what I used to think. But nothing has been buried naturally by time ever in my most 50 years. This is a good example because we have pictures of the buildings 100 years ago, and we have them now, and we can compare those pictures, and nothing really got buried for 100 years, even more than you say, because 50 years is your experience and 100 years is the picture experience. Wow, you're alive. Yes, I am alive, and I'm not a mason. Okay, thanks again. So the news tells us that the coral reef will be dead by 2015. Probably, I would say the news is supposed to cover the garbage land in the ocean, which is right now bigger than France. And this garbage land is very exciting to visit for the people who like to visit, ecology objects, and just go there and visit it. And they have trips there. They have like some people that can bring you to the place, and you can dive there and watch how thick is the level of the garbage, plastic, and all this crap in the ocean. What about Rh negative blood people? I don't have such information right now. What I've said about the blue-blooded people, you can watch it in the second part of Crow Crow and Red Berberry. But I'm not kind of confirming the negative blood people, because in fact, my wife probably has a negative blood, and I don't think she's a queen or something. Well, she is a queen for me, but she's not a queen in the bloodline, so it's probably crazy to say so. She's just an ordinary person, just like me and you. Okay. Just discovered your channel. All the RH people have Nephilim giant DNA. We all have giant DNA, as I've said before, because giants couldn't have just disappear, but the royal bloodlines have more of the DNA, of course, because they were the giants that actually betrayed us and were not killed. We have the DNA of the giants that were killed fighting for us, and they have the DNA of the giants that betrayed the humanity, betrayed so-called gods, because gods are our ancestors, and all the gods in the world are made of the ancestors from either cell we came from, because we have like plenty of gods. It's not because God is one, because plenty of other cells had plenty of ancestors which were performing great mental skills and could perform, so-called god events or magic events, and many, great things they done, and that's why they were pictured as gods, and everybody believes in them, because it's not like a totally BS. Probably you were brought from the place that brought that information with them and encrypt it in you like a DNA information, but it's your mental DNA, and you believe in it not because you really believe in it, because you were told in the DNA of mental body. Okay. Other royal bloodlines reptilian. Well, of course, everybody is reptilian because we, as you know, the so-called signs of reptilians of everywhere in the royal things. But what I brought not that far ago is that information about the birds, and they try to link birds to dinosaurs. So this is probably the key, and this is probably what I'm going to cover in one of the future videos about the crow and red bravery, because they comparing the birds to reptilians to the dinosaurs. So this is probably the connection here, because dinosaurs are obviously fake, but we see many reptilians on the pictures in the Middle Ages, the ages that were before 17th and 18th century, and those artifacts are probably real, because, well, they look real for me, and I often use those pictures of 17th and 18th century in my videos about mud flood. So if I totally discredit that information, but I cannot do that because we have the drawing of something and we look at it right now, it looks exactly the same. So how can it we not take this in count? I don't know. So if we take in count the pictures from that past, probably those are the pictures that were painted in that time, or the time before the flood, or at the time exactly after the flood. It could be falsified and said like it was in 15th century, but if it pictures real situation, real place, we can compare it and say if this is real or not. Also, we have many portraits of persons, and we have like many hidden signs there, like when the dress is sliding on the floor, it looks like no legs there. So we can suppose this was the reptilian humanoid person of the parasite race, which were queens and kings in the mid-ages, medievals. Maybe the civilization was wiped out 1,000 or more years. Time for all the building to go under naturally. Well, if you can show me the example of modern concrete building that can last for rather modern concrete building that can last for 1,000 years, I would say you're right, because I think those concrete blocks, which were right now used to call megalithic blocks, were made in the like 500 to 400 years ago, not even more, because they would already be disappearing, because concrete is not that type. Although it's more practical in use than to say that it was a stone block, stone carved blocks. Somebody posted a picture about let me see if we can screen share. Like this picture, if you can see it. So the question is, similar marks on walls or of rock and underground structures and roadsides we see all the time. They are not like the marks of stone and bronze hammers and chisels. Then what are the mechanisms which left them? This is just the cover of the concrete block. When you cover it with some, bags or something like a natural rebar cover, so it sticks to it, and when you take it off, you see this structure. So this is just the structure from the natural bags or something which were covering those blocks when you do the concrete block, pouring the concrete in the form, and then you form it with something. You have to tie this all together, or do something like this. And again, this video about satellites, I actually encourage everybody to watch it. It's on the journalism channel. It shows how wireless communication works. And I wanted to say about Russia 2018, we have France and Croatia in the finals. So the emblem is of this Russia World Cup is this. So what they're showing us is the reflection map and a multi-cell world here. So it's like a multi-reflection of what I'm talking about, and it's integrated in the form of the cup, World Cup. So it's like saying it's infinite. It brings us an 8 number, an 8 here. So it's like infinite reflection with a spinning skies and a multiple cell universe. Okay. You can't judge the intention of a painter, so everything what people was painting in the past must be the truth. So why not people painting abstractions? It's a bit bold it's a bit bold belief, isn't it? Probably didn't understand what you mean, but probably, perhaps. I follow Age of Disclosure and Math Fossil University channels. Have you done any DNA test on any mud fossil or know of anyone that has on the giant mud fossils? No, I have not done any of this. Is DNA testing actually valid or just another lie? They say it's real, so we probably just have to believe it for now. But we know one guy in Russia. I actually just watched his video about DNA roots of all the people, and he's actually saying something that really connects with what my research is following on. So he's saying like we have those key points of where DNA starts to expand in the roots and split. So he's like researching the DNA codes of the male, and he says like the male DNA is the only way that can be only one that can be tracked. So probably I'll be translating one of his interviews so you can understand more of this, but I don't know when. I have so many topics to bring you. Age of Disclosure says that Roger Spur has done so far. So probably you can watch his channel and ask him about it, because I didn't have any time to research that. I have so many topics to research and I just don't have any time. What do you think about the Golden Age architecture? What are those vases, grails used for? The radiate electricity? I bet you are close about this static electricity. I bet I am, but you're probably right, but we cannot, say for sure. As I said before in the beginning of this video, I can be sure for like some amount of percent, but it's not 100%. Just what we see on the test that people can perform right now, this electricity actually can be caught, can be used, and can be, replicated in different power lines and can be used as a system. So if it can be used as a system, we can look at the symbolism, we can look at native cultures, we can look at those spinning men like you have in Turkey, which are really sending us the message of how things were working back then in that time, because they cannot kill everybody, so probably some teachers were left, some people were left, and they grew the population knowing that previous information, although they couldn't have said it to the public, they could have encrypted it in the fairy tales, legends, dances, songs, all this stuff. So vase is just the same, it's an art object, so you probably can look at it and understand how that on this device would be working back then, because back then they used to make any technical device beautiful. And this is what really proves it, because they had a better technology level, a better understanding, a better level of culture. Maybe not everybody, but at least the elites had it. And if they had it, we can, perform just the same, copy it, and, replicate it in modern technologies. Just what people are trying to do in their tests. Where did the giants go? As I've said before, they never went anywhere, because you cannot just escape the place when it's locked. If the parasites enter the place, the cell blocks its entrance, and wherever you go, you just reappear at the opposite side of the cell, or the reflection side, whatever you call it. Just watch one of my videos and you understand exactly what I'm talking about. It's not like you when you go to your reflection, you end up exactly there. You end up there, you have to be ended up on the globe model, because we have this dome, which is a reflection actually of the place, and it looks like a global navigation is working perfectly. That's why you reappear everywhere. So giants never went anywhere. They were dead here, at least those giants who couldn't have escaped the place after all these things started, and after they were betraying the trees, they were betraying uh, this or that nation, they were guarding. They were guarding and guarding in the place. This is why it's called like this. It's called the Midgard, and they were the higher mental level persons at first. And they had so-called wizards, they had druids, they had, king is the word for this, because kings were the most educated person. They first came to Jesus in the Bible, those three kings. And they're not what we know as a king right now, because right now king is just the governor of the elites. Okay, and back then they were picked and voted for, and right now they're just sharing their role through the bloodlines and you know their families, clans. What are the parasites? Reptilian? Nobody actually knows. Maybe they set up the reptilians, maybe they set up some kind of planners, because I have many information on planners, and planners are actually in the human body, although they can perform extraterrestrial skills, and they can move through the walls and have non-dimensional exits everywhere. So like they walk around the corner and whoop, nobody there. Okay, this is what they do, because they have those doors, and they can walk through those doors and through those walls, through those tunnels that we cannot use. And that's why they have more skills. And if they want to plan something, they exactly set up the situation on any basic level, and you won't even meet the person if you're supposed to meet him, and they don't want it. So this is what they showed in one of the movies about that congressman in New York. Watch this with Matt Damon. This is great information for people to decrypt, and maybe somebody will decrypt that movie, like Rosette, because she's very good in decoding this stuff. She calls it decoding. I call it decrypting. Can you change view? We see YouTube. Oh, okay. Like, do you see? Alice parasites, what the Gnostics were talking about. Well, Gnostics were talking about a bunch of things. I probably cannot, confirm it for now. Because mushrooms are the only things that would gain from lots of blood spill in wars onto the ground. Well, they undergo fungus. What do you mean, Bethlehem? Your thoughts on elongated skulls, Philipp, Homo sapiens, and do you think they are still around? How about cannibals? How about this thing? We know that when you enter somebody and you conquer the place, you have somebody who scares the population with little activities like terrorizing the small amounts of people spread it worldwide, and you can uh, do this or that with those type of things, because those created persons, I call them created persons, they were not born here. They were created to perform the attacks. So it's like a false flag attack, right? When you have a false flag attack, you have the explanation for the further budget spend it on something, right? Military purposes, intelligence, all those A and Bs, CIAs, FBIs, KGBs, and all this stuff. And if you have a cannibal who's like stealing the kids in different areas, you have to spend more money to and say like, oh, giants, you are not working very well, we have to like rent an army to conquer those cannibals and do this stuff. So probably this is why so many different creatures, monsters, people that had another physical abilities were reappearing, and they can be found actually, like and they call them reptilians, or no, they call them lizards, dinosaurs, they call them whatever they can call them. These were probably created in labs of the previous time, so it's just monster biological weapons which were supposed to scare the people, and so parasites can take the control more faster, because they cannot just enter the cell and say it's our rule here. They have to provoke the people to elect them, because you cannot just immediately teleport your whole army here. This is not how it works. The cell is blocked once any parasitic activity is started. So they have like a small amount of activists here, which are creating wide range of different intelligence work, uh, you know, hiring double agents, performing attacks, performing all this conspiracy stuff, planning, controlling the elites. They have so many things to get cared, and they don't have much time, because sooner or later somebody will come and kick their asses from other cells. Okay, so they have those little monsters to control us, and that's why so many information fairy tales, which is also an ideological weapon, because they say it's a fairy tale, they say it was just a bunch of bull, but our ancestors encrypted it in information for us to think what is real and what is not. Because if we see something and it looks like a monster, it looks like he's has this long scalp or whatever, probably he was somebody, not a humankind, right? And if he was not a humankind, if he's not a giant, or if he's not somebody else, then it's probably a monster type of personnel, or somebody who helped the parasites to you know dig inside our communities first. Or maybe this is how they looked the first time, and then they were mixing with people, they created smaller skulls. This is also can be explained in this, because when they came they had long skulls, and then they mixing with people, started to be and look more like actual human, Homo sapiens, whatever. Bethlen, if you feel unsure about just take some baking soda to make sure you are living alone. Okay, I lean toward octopus now, because the theory that there was water before anything else, the water separate from the waters, nothing before then. Shape-shifting beasts look like octopus, and they have blue blood, and they of all creatures can shapeshift, and there are pics of stages of octopus arm sticking out of the suits of armor. Well, I can only agree about the blue blood, but probably this is only thing I can say about this right now. How do you back up the idea of the giants were weapons? They were not weapons, but they were, in our world, they were the guards of the the human nations, okay, the towns, the cities, the communities. They were guarding, they were working, they were professionals, they were wizards, you know, they were kings. So this is a professional role, not just a bloodline role. It's a professional role. You have to perform something to be a giant. You have to live for some centuries. You know, they have to know about more information. They have to recreate, reappear here in the cell for a bunch of times. You know, Sansara, you know, have you heard about it? So we reappear in those cells a bunch of times, and they have to be performing something so they can remember the previous appearance, you know, get all this knowledge in the new life and increase their abilities, increase their mental bodies, grow themselves to the skies, whatever. If they want to be big enough, they have to be big enough in the mental. Okay. The elongated skull people from South America were supposedly all destroyed in the mass grave. Brian Forrester has lots of videos about that. Well, if they were placed in one grave, then probably they were just a small group of some persons, which if they are not spread worldwide, who knows? And maybe this is the place where we settled, and before the spreading out, they were buried, so nobody can find them. Who knows? But if they found them, look, they probably messed up. Well, I can see no questions really expanding the topics right now. So, and it's already kind of late for me to talk. So, if you have more topics on the list, you can go ahead and vote in my group, in the Debunking Conspiracy group, or write me in the comments. I'll be bringing back the information as soon as I can. So, I have more videos to come. Just don't unsubscribe. Stick around and see you later, guys. Bye.